Mill kept snooping through our house every time she came for dinner, so we printed fake divorce papers making it look like I was taking all her son's money. She took the bait and exploded in front of the whole family. So for context, my husband and I have been together for the past 4 years. We've been living together for the past 2 years and married for 1. Our relationship is pretty smooth, but the only problem is that my mother-in-law doesn't really like me much. Honestly, though, she doesn't seem to like anybody that much, so we've made our peace with it. We are cordial with her, we invited her over for dinner and events, and she does the same, but we don't have a deeper relationship. And then, a couple of months ago, my father-in-law passed away. We lost him to a heart attack. It was pretty unexpected, and it really did soften me up towards my mother-in-law because I was pretty young when I lost my dad, and I know what that kind of thing does to families. Especially with my mom, I know how difficult it was for her after my dad passed on, so I made an effort to be kinder to her. We decided to start inviting her over for dinner every alternate weekend, and I could tell that she was grateful for that, at least in the beginning. After that, I don't know why, but she started snooping throughout our house, and we did take some time to figure it out, but after a while, we were pretty sure that that's exactly what she was doing. Every time, either before dinner or after, she would excuse herself to go to the bathroom and she would take some time, but we never thought much of it. But then, she started finding out things that we had never told her, and she started asking us about it, and whenever we tried to confront her about how she had found out, she would tell me that she had just guessed. We were not fools, though, because we knew that it was impossible to get lucky so often with her guesses and have them be absolutely correct. For instance, a couple of weeks ago, she found out somehow that my husband was considering a merger with another company and she was against that kind of thing because she believed that it would show some kind of weakness and she did not want that to be the legacy of the company that my father-in-law had built. So she confronted my husband about it, and we were baffled as to how she even found out because neither of us had told her. We knew that she would not take it well, so we were planning on breaking the news to her gently. However, she found out, and that was that, and they had a bit of a fight about it, and eventually, my husband had to give in and shelve his plans because his mother threw such a tantrum and also because his father's passing was so recent. He did not want to upset her more. But for the life of us, we couldn't figure out how she even knew about it. And then, just 2 weeks back, after dinner, she confronted me about my plans to freeze my eggs. She just brought it up very casually, even though I had literally never spoken about the kind of thing with anybody apart from my husband. And when I asked her how she knew, she told me that she just got lucky with her, and then she started lecturing me about how bad it was for me, which were just her personal feelings that are not backed up by facts. And she started telling me that I'm young, and that instead of doing all of this, I should just start trying and focus more on my family instead of spending all day at work because that way, things will be much better for all of us and I won't have to end up freezing my eggs and spend a ton of money on that now. After that, I was obviously pretty annoyed, because somehow, she was finding out about things that she had no way of knowing, and by then, we had put 2 and 2 together, and we knew that she was snooping every time she came over. It wasn't hard to figure out, because our home office is the room opposite our bathroom, so we figured that she must either be lying to us about going to the bathroom, or maybe she would just take a couple of extra minutes and snoop through our papers. The plans for the merger were in the office, and I had a couple of tabs open on my laptop that also happened to be in the office, related to freezing my eggs, where I was doing my proper research right before my mother-in-law showed up for dinner that day. These were the major things that led us to figure out what was actually going on, but apart from this too, there were a couple of smaller incidents that are not worth mentioning, but did tip us off. So, after dinner 2 weeks ago, once my mother-in-law had left after lecturing me about the importance of family values, especially when we are young, I really lost it. I told my husband that I couldn't do this anymore, that I had tried my best to be a little more compassionate towards her, even though she had always made very clear that she did not like me, but now she was really overstepping her boundaries, and I thought that maybe we would have to cut down on the dinners together because this was getting out of hand. Of course, if we accused her of snooping, then she would deny it and somehow play the victim, so we knew that there was no point in confronting her. And my husband agreed that she was overstepping and something had to be done about this. We spent a couple of days being very upset about all of this, but then, it was actually my husband who came up with this plan, and it was really brilliant because this was totally going to prove that she had been snooping through our stuff. So we decided to get a fake divorce petition printed, and we made sure that it looked real enough to convince somebody, and we made the terms of the petition very unfair for my husband. Both of us got a huge kick out of it, because it was very funny, since we made the terms of the petition seem like I was out to get all the property that belongs to him and his family. I knew that this would really make my mother-in-law mad, because she already didn't like the fact that her son had married somebody who came from a less privileged family background compared to theirs. I mean, I'm not saying that I grew up poor or anything. I grew up normally, but it's nothing compared to my husband and his family. However, he's not arrogant about it, unlike his mother. So anyway, we knew that this was going to set her off, and our plan actually worked. Because a couple of days ago, we invited her over for dinner, but this time, We invited a couple of other people from the family as well. We made it a proper family dinner, with my sister-in-law and her husband and kids, and my husband's uncle and aunt. I get along well enough with them, and we were having a good time after dinner when, as usual, my mother-in-law excused herself to go to the bathroom, but this time she didn't come back for almost 10 minutes. We thought that that was a bit unusual, and a couple of people even offered to go check on her, but we said that it was all right because we knew what was about to come. And just as we had expected, a couple of minutes later, my mother-in-law stormed into the living room with the papers that we had left for her to find in one of the drawers in the office, waving it angrily and screaming at me. She started cursing me out, saying that I had turned out to be exactly the kind of person she expected me to be, and she should have never allowed her son to get married to somebody like me because she should have known that I would look for the first opportunity to screw up their lives, and that's exactly what I was doing. Obviously, my husband and I were not surprised about any of this, but everyone else was very confused and tried to ask her what was going on, so she told them that she had found these divorce papers in the office and started telling everyone that I had filed for the divorce, and according to the terms of my petition, I was coming after everything that they owned, all their property and even their company, even though my husband had been nothing but nice to me, and I knew for a fact that I was not entitled to any of this. She said that I had probably been waiting for an opportunity like this after the passing of my father-in-law, and since this was the perfect time to strike, I had started to show my true colors, and she called me a gold digger, a snake, and said that she wished nothing but the most awful things for me. My husband and I kept our cool, we did not say anything, and I didn't lose it because we had all seen this coming. We just patiently and quietly waited for her to be done with her rant, while everyone else was super confused. And once she seemed to run out of steam, we decided to finally tell her that this was a trap that we had set for her, and she had obviously fallen for it. I told her that it was my husband and I who had printed out those papers for her to find, because we knew that this was coming, and it was pretty stupid of her to assume that, even if I was filing for a divorce, I would keep the divorce papers in the same home office that both my husband and I use frequently. And then, finally, she started to look confused and flipped through the papers of the petition once again and finally started to realize that she had been played. I told her that we had done all of this just to prove that she had been snooping every time she came over, and we made sure to have family around when she threw this tantrum so that everybody would know what kind of a person she was and just to what extent she hated me, even though I had nothing against her and had even tried to be kind to her for the past couple of months. But she was not grateful. She was an incredibly selfish woman who couldn't see the good in anyone, and we told her that after everything that she said, there was no way that we were going to let her be involved in our lives anymore and that we were done after this level of disrespect. Then, she immediately started crying, saying that she had been tricked, which obviously she had, but the truth came out that way, and we didn't want anything to do with her after that. The family did end on a bitter note, and everybody else who was there decided not to talk about this, but my mother-in-law has been going out of her way to seek sympathy from anyone who will listen, and by now, pretty much the entire family knows what went down at the dinner the other day. Some people are sympathetic with her, some people have texted us to let us know that we did the right thing, but everyone seems to have an opinion on this. Anyway, we don't really care about that, but we do think that my mother-in-law has taken this very hard. Because, alongside telling everyone about it, she has been texting my husband and trying to call him every now and then, and she's been telling him that I'm a malicious daughter-in-law, and that I've turned his head, and all sorts of rubbish about me. She's been claiming that I'm brainwashing him against her and that eventually, I'm going to break this family apart because I'm apparently a horrible person because I decided to do something like this, even though I knew that she had just lost her husband a couple of months ago and she was just trying to look out for her son like any other mother does, and that's why she had been snooping. Now, the thing is, even though the idea was actually my husband's, I went along with it, and the only thing that I feel guilty about is the fact that we did it just a couple of months after her husband passed away, and no matter how much it is like her, I know that she was really shattered after that. I don't feel bad about anything else. This is the only thing that I feel like has been weighing down on me a bit, and my conscience is pricking at me now. So do you guys think I should apologize for that? Nothing else, just for that part. Ida, for putting my mother-in-law in this situation just a couple of months after her husband's demise? Edit. The reason my husband has not blocked his mother yet is because obviously she's aged, and he doesn't want to regret his actions if anything were to happen to her. I think that's a pretty valid reason not to want to block her, even though she's been horrible to us in the past couple of weeks and we don't want anything to do with her at the moment. But in case of emergencies, we still want to be reachable to her, because otherwise, it'll be pretty unforgivable, I think. Update 1. Hey, everyone. So it has been 6 days since my last update, and we've stopped feeling guilty about what we did. Because honestly, if she had not snooped, if she hadn't gone out of her way to try and find out what we were up to instead of just doing the right thing and waiting for us to come to her with whatever news we had, then none of this would have even happened. And on top of that, there was no need for her to create such a scene at the family dinner. If she was so bothered about what she had found, then she could have just waited it out and confronted us in private, and then maybe it would have been less embarrassing for her when she found out that she was wrong about the whole thing. But no, she immediately believed the worst, and she decided to come and confront me in public and wanted to humiliate me. She said the most awful things about me, so I really don't think that I have to feel bad about what I did. The fact that her husband passed away recently is sad, but it's not an excuse for her behavior, very honestly. Anyway, like I said, there were some people who had reached out to us to tell us that we had done the right thing. Because the gossip was really doing its rounds, all thanks to my mother-in-law. I don't know why she had to go out of her way to talk about this with the rest of the family, just for a little bit of sympathy. If anything, that alienated us from her even more, because at least we were not going around telling everyone what had happened and trying to paint ourselves as the victims. Yes, what we did at the dinner was maybe not that nice. We shouldn't have invited the other members of the family, but they are pretty close to us and we didn't want her to be able to deny anything later on regarding her behavior because I'm pretty sure that she would have done so. And slowly, that number has been growing, because like I said at the beginning, there are a lot of people in the family who really don't get along with my mother-in-law because she's not a very likable person in general, and she does have a tendency to look down on people. It's not just me in particular, she always has some rubbish or the other to say about everyone, so she does have a kind of reputation. I'm very glad that this is backfiring on her, because she is the one who decided to start gossiping about it. Obviously the people who were there at the family dinner, they still don't have anything to say about it, and they have made it very clear that they are completely fine with being on good terms with all of us. They just don't want to get involved in the drama, and we respect that. We have even apologized to them for springing all of this onto them, but we did explain our side of the story as well, why it was important for them to be there at the dinner to be witnesses to my mother-in-law's behavior so she wouldn't be able to deny it later on. And they understood that as well, so it's all good between us, and we respect the fact that they don't want to get dragged into this mess because very honestly, neither would we in their place. And I'm pretty sure that there are some people who are sympathizing with my mother-in-law as well, and they can continue to do so. They are mostly the older ones in the family, and they have made their opinions known as well. It's not that they have reached out to me directly or anything, but I have heard from people that these older relatives are on my mother-in-law's side and have been telling everyone not to talk to us and somehow pressure us into apologizing. Well, this will keep going for a while, I can see that, but I'm glad that I have some support on my side at least. Even without that, I think my husband and I would have been enough for each other, but we are grateful for what we have. Update 2. So it's been 2 weeks since my last update, and lots of things have happened in the meantime regarding my mother-in-law and all that. It's very upsetting, to be honest, but that's how it is. Basically, for the first couple of days after my last update, we didn't hear from her for a few days, and everything was going well because we thought that this was finally blowing over. But then, she decided to send a very mean email to my husband about me, saying that everything that I had said in the petition was eventually going to come through one day, and that day, my husband was going to regret not listening to his mother about me because she knows that I'm only after him for his money and the social status and nothing else, and she knows what kind of a woman I am. She knows that if I'm ready to stoop to levels just to put her down, then there's no telling what I might do. And the thing is, she still has no idea that the plan was not even mine. It was her son who came up with it. After that horrible message about me, my husband decided to tell her about it, that it was not even my idea, that it was he had come up with it because he was sick of her constantly interfering in his life. This was nothing new. She had always been like this, right from when he was a child, and she had always tried to control him. She had never liked any of his girlfriends, and basically, she had just never liked anybody who had been linked with him romantically. I was obviously the final person, and obviously, she didn't like me either, and he could never understand why because I had never done anything to make her feel that way, and in fact, in spite of her behavior, I had always maintained my dignity and been very civil and cordial with her. And after he told her that it had been his plan, he thought that maybe she would ease up on me, but then, she decided to turn it around somehow and still make it my fault. I don't even know how that was possible. I have to say that I was pretty surprised. But anyway, when she found out that it was his idea, she took a couple of hours, but then she eventually replied, saying that it didn't matter whose idea it was. What mattered was that I had agreed to it, and if I had really respected her as my mother-in-law, then I never would have agreed to something like this, which was so low and disgusting. So surprise, it was still my fault, and she was unwilling to admit that I might not have been in the wrong here. It's literally crazy. Anyway, when she started blaming me for this, my husband couldn't take it anymore. He had literally handed it to her on a platter, that it had been his idea all along, and I had had nothing to do with it apart from the fact that I had supported him. But even then, she had somehow turned it into something ugly and had made it my fault, saying that I must have turned him against her to do something like this. It was the last straw for him, so then, he decided to block her. And honestly, it had been a long time coming. She had been trying her luck for quite some time now, and she had been pushing it. I was personally pretty glad that he had finally decided to block her, because I really didn't want this kind of drama to be dragged out. It was getting annoying, so after the blocking was done, we thought that there would finally be an end to this. But of course not, because my mother-in-law decided to turn up at our house the very next day to confront us about what had happened. Actually, if I'm being accurate, Then she had only come by to confront her son because she made that very clear when I tried to speak to her. We opened the door, we let her in because we were trying to be polite about all of this. But then, as soon as she was in, she started yelling at my husband, saying that he was allowing himself to be brainwashed by me and he needed to be more clever about what he was doing instead of being so easy to manipulate. She told him that there was no way that she was going to allow him to treat her like this, especially when she had lost her husband so recently, because it was just not the right thing to do and he needed to know that. She told him that he was going down the wrong road, and that the only solution would be to cut me out of his life, somehow, and if he can't do that, then the least he can do is teach me to be a little more respectable when it comes to her instead of being so disgusting. I didn't like that, and I tried to speak to her and tell her that she couldn't talk about me like this. And then, she literally whipped around at me, got up all in my face and into my personal space and started telling me that I had no right to tell her what she can or cannot do under her son's roof. She literally started wagging her finger in my face and it was crazy. I literally had to take a couple of steps back because it was so infuriating and crazy. And when my husband saw that I had to step back because she was invading my personal space, he decided to restrain his mom physically by grabbing her arm and told her that he did not trust her, especially after everything that had been said and done. And he did not want her to hurt me, anyhow, so she could not get any closer to me and it was just as much my house as it was his, so she had no right to tell me anything of the sort. I could totally say whatever I want, and if she couldn't take that, then she should just leave. His mom didn't like that at all, and she started crying, saying that she couldn't believe that he was treating her like this after she had already lost so much in her life. She claimed that she was only trying to look out for him, and she was trying to protect him from me. People like me didn't deserve him, and he should know that. At that point in time, I was really done with the whole thing, so I told my husband that I was going out for a walk and that I would be back after she was gone because I really did not want to spoil my mood by dealing with her. It was a Sunday, and I had a pretty hectic week, so I didn't have to deal with her and ruin my mood for the weekend. After that, I went out for a walk, and I returned about an hour later and by then, she was gone. So I spoke to my husband about what had happened after I went out, and he told me that nothing much. He had just told his mother that he did not want anything to do with her anymore because she had made it very obvious that she couldn't think about anybody apart from herself. And even though she was claiming to be protecting him, she did not seem to care about his feelings, and the fact that he loved me. He told her that if she was willing to hurt the people that he loved, then it was very clear that she did not care about him as much as she said she did. They got into a bit of a fight over me, because he was defending me and she was trying to paint me as the villain. After a while, she got really mad, and she even broke a glass that was on the coffee table out of anger. It was then that he decided to threaten her with the cops, and she finally left, after saying that she was never going to speak to him again, even if he begged for forgiveness and that he would definitely do, because I was definitely going to leave him at some point, and then he would regret everything. He didn't try to argue with that, he just let her leave and that was that. He cleaned up the mess from the breaking of the glass vase and a couple of minutes after that, I finally came back home. So that was that, and right now, we are not on speaking terms with her, and we are pretty glad about it. Because honestly, there is nothing that we have to say to her, and I'm hoping that she doesn't have anything to say to us after this point either. I think she has created enough trouble for us, we don't need any more. So I really hope that she sticks to this and stays away from us after this. Update 3, hey, everybody. So I have some good news. A couple of weeks ago, my husband and I discovered that I was pregnant. I had been thinking about freezing my eggs, but I guess there's no need for that now. We thought about it, and we are going through with it, because now is as good a time as any. We posted about it recently on social media, and everyone congratulated us, but of course, my mother-in-law had something negative to say. She had been blocked everywhere, so she decided to reach out to my husband through a new email account, and she told him that now that he was starting a family with me, he was going to see my real face, and she wished him luck, saying that he would definitely need it. Obviously, she's not going to have anything to do with me or my husband or her grandkid in the future. She just sealed her fate with this email. She was very passive-aggressive about it, but whatever, we are happy and she can't take that away from us no matter how much she tries.